Which ex-presidents would you want to go on a bender with? Some US presidents didn't just lead the country, they knew how to party. From legendary drinkers to thrill-seekers, many indulged in excess, sometimes even shaping history through a haze of alcohol. While drinking was once an American pastime, whiskey for breakfast, a few presidents took it to another level. So, who would make the ultimate drinking buddy? We're not talking about a casual beer, we mean a full-scale, memory-erasing bender. Which ex-president would you bring along for the ride? Drop your pick in the comments. Number 1. John F. Kennedy, the suave playboy. JFK wasn't just America's golden boy, he was the ultimate high roller, living a life of power, wealth, and excess. Though he wasn't known for drinking heavily, he had a refined taste for alcohol, favoring champagne, daiquiris, and Cuba Libres. His legendary White House pool parties were packed with Hollywood stars, political elites, and beautiful socialites, where the drinks flowed as freely as the secrets. But Kennedy's real fuel wasn't alcohol, it was a cocktail of drugs administered by Dr. Max Jacobson, better known as Dr. Feelgood. These amphetamine-laced injections gave him a superhuman energy that kept him functioning through grueling workdays and wild nights. His private life was just as fast-paced, with a list of lovers that reads like a Hollywood casting call: Marilyn Monroe, Judith Exner, who had mob ties, White House intern Mimi Alford, Swedish aristocrat Gunilla von Post, and even a rumored tryst with Marlene Dietrich, who was 20 years his senior. And let's not forget the cigars. Kennedy loved Cuban cigars so much that he ordered his staff to stockpile over 1,000 premium smokes just hours before signing the embargo that banned them. A night out with JFK would be the ultimate VIP experience: exclusive parties, private lounges, and scandalous affairs, all wrapped in that famous Kennedy charm. But beware, his Secret Service detail wouldn't let you get too reckless, and trying to keep up with a man powered by sex, adrenaline, and prescription stimulants might just break you. Pros: you'd be drinking with movie stars and political insiders, experiencing the highest levels of luxury and power. Cons: his Secret Service agents would be watching, and he was always running at full speed. You'd have to keep up with a man who never slowed down. Number 2. George W. Bush, the Texas wild card. Before sobering up in 1986, W was an absolute party legend. During his time at Yale, he was a notorious frat boy, a member of Skull and Bones, and a fixture at wild keggers. His reputation followed him into his 20s and 30s, where he racked up a DUI arrest, rumors of cocaine use, and even a drunken theft of a Christmas wreath from a hotel. Bush loved beer and was known for his goofy, carefree energy when partying. "When I was young and irresponsible, he later admitted. But even after he quit drinking, his boisterous personality and dad joke humor made him a fun guy to be around. Pros: he's hilarious when drunk, and a night out with him would be chaotic fun. He'd also have endless Bushisms, like "I know how hard it is for you to put food on your family." Cons: he tends to get caught, he's been arrested 3 times, so you'd better have bail money ready. Number 3. Ulysses S. Grant, the battlefield boozer. Few drank with the dedication of General Grant. His men knew to keep him supplied with whiskey, and Abraham Lincoln famously refused to fire him, saying, "I wish some of my other generals drank what he does." He was known to carry a personal whiskey barrel during the Civil War, fueling his fearlessness in battle. Despite being a war hero, Grant was a notorious lightweight, often getting hammered off just a few drinks. By the time he reached the presidency, his drinking was widely known, and his wife Julia had to monitor his intake. If you took Grant on a bender, you'd get insane Civil War stories, but he might black out by midnight. Number 4. John Adams, the founding father of day drinking. Adams wasn't just one of America's intellectual architects, he was also a man who started his mornings with hard cider. A drinker from the age of 15, he also picked up smoking at 8 years old and kept the habit until he died at 90. A night out with Adams would probably start at breakfast, and he could regale you with stories of Boston tavern brawls, backroom political deals, and writing the Declaration of Independence while tipsy. But be warned, Adams had a reputation for being overly talkative. Once he got going on why Alexander Hamilton was a bastard brat, there'd be no stopping him. Number 5. Franklin D. Roosevelt, the king of the martini. FDR wasn't just a great president, he was a serious cocktail enthusiast. He personally repealed Prohibition in 1933 and loved making martinis, although Winston Churchill once spit one out, calling it terrible. His White House parties were legendary, with guests enjoying top-shelf liquor and political gossip. He also loved boats, spending much of his free time on sailboats and houseboats. If you were drinking with FDR, you'd probably end up on a party boat somewhere off the coast. Pros: you'd get to drink on a yacht, with a president who could mix strong cocktails and tell political secrets. Cons: he carefully controlled his image, meaning no reckless antics, and he might lecture you about politics instead of partying. Number 6. William Howard Taft, the sleepy heavyweight. William Howard Taft was the biggest president in U.S. history, weighing 330 pounds. While he wasn't a big drinker himself, he pushed alcohol on his guests, hosting lavish White House dinners where the drinks flowed freely. Taft was also a member of Skull and Bones, meaning he had access to elite, secret parties. The biggest problem? He suffered from narcolepsy, meaning he could pass out at any moment, leaving you to figure out how to move a 330-pound unconscious man. Pros: if you could get him to drink, he'd probably have an insane tolerance. His connections could get you into exclusive parties. Cons: he might fall asleep mid-bender, leaving you with a serious logistics problem. Number 7. Franklin Pierce, the most honest drunk. Pierce didn't just drink, he embraced it. After his presidency, he declared, "There's nothing left to do but get drunk." A lifelong drinker, Pierce died of cirrhosis, and many historians believe his alcoholism was fueled by personal tragedy, including the violent death of his son in a train crash just before his inauguration. A night out with Pierce would involve pure dedication to drinking, but also moments of deep sadness. He had swagger and charm, but after enough whiskey, you'd probably end up listening to him cry about his lost political career. Number 8. Grover Cleveland, Big Steve's Beer Challenge. Grover Cleveland, affectionately known as Big Steve and Uncle Jumbo, was a giant of a man with a giant appetite for booze. His love for beer was so intense that, during his 1870 campaign for District Attorney of Erie County, New York, he and his opponent made a pact to limit themselves to just 4 beers a day. They both quickly realized that was too restrictive and abandoned the rule. Cleveland preferred beer to any other drink and was known to consume multiple pitchers in one sitting. However, Cleveland had a very problematic personal life. He married his best friend's daughter, Frances Folsom, when she was 21 years old, but he had known her since she was a baby, making things extremely creepy. Pros: if you wanted to drink beer all night and get into loud, political arguments, Cleveland was your man. He had fantastic cigars, a booming laugh, and zero limits on consumption. Cons: he had a history of bad personal decisions, and his questionable marriage choices might make for some awkward conversations. Number 9. James Buchanan, the high-class bachelor. Buchanan was a lifelong bachelor who lived in a mansion with his male roommate, leading some historians to speculate he was America's first gay president. He drank copious amounts of whiskey, reportedly downing multiple bottles per evening. A bender with Buchanan would be fancy, expensive, and involve exclusive venues, but also dark and brooding. Like many of his era, he suffered from chronic depression, which might put a damper on things. Number 10. Chester A. Arthur, the original party bus owner. Chester A. Arthur was a snobby, wealthy New Yorker who loved excess. He refused to wake up before noon, dressed like a European aristocrat, and rode around town in a custom-built, luxury party carriage, getting drunk along the way. He never walked anywhere, always insisting on traveling in opulent style. Arthur was a socialite through and through. He threw extravagant dinner parties with 12-course meals, expensive wine, and a guest list filled with the upper crust of New York society. Pros: he practically invented the party bus, meaning a bender with him would be first class all the way. Cons: his elitist attitude might get annoying fast unless you were also a wealthy, well-dressed aristocrat. You might feel out of place. Number 11. Richard Nixon, the paranoid drunk. Nixon wasn't just a nightly drinker, he was a deeply paranoid, angry drunk. His favorite liquor was scotch, and he often drank alone, mumbling about his enemies. By the later years of his presidency, Nixon was regularly intoxicated, and aides had to hide important documents to prevent him from making drunken executive orders. Pros: if you're into political gossip, Nixon would have an endless supply of juicy secrets. Cons: he was deeply paranoid, expect a lot of drunken conspiracy theories and accusations that you're a spy. Number 12. Andrew Jackson, the brawler in the bar. Andrew Jackson was one of the most violent drinkers in U.S. history. He killed a man in a duel, fought in over 100 personal brawls, and once beat a would-be assassin with a cane. He loved whiskey and rough saloons, and his White House inaugural party turned into a full-blown riot. Pros: if you got into a bar fight, Jackson would 100% back you up. Cons: there's a high chance the night ends with someone getting seriously hurt.